Hello? Hello, Mark? Do you hear me? Just a moment. Hello, Mark. Do you hear me? Do you hear me? No. Mhm. Mm. Do you hear me?
Do you hear me?
Yes.
It was my fault.
Okay, good.
Sorry, just getting this working.
That's good. So your background is very good. Very intelligent. Looks very intelligent.
That's it's your inspiration, Aki.
Right, right. Yeah, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, moment. So, do you see your schedule?
Yes, you've added one more question.
Yes. Moment. Mm.
Not an easy one to answer, but okay.
Right.
Fine. Yeah.
Mark, actually, that 4 participants is already there, so they are watching that you are eating breakfast.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's fine. That UK is in the morning, right?
Yeah, very early. It's 7:15.
7:15. Oh yeah. Yeah. Normally, what time do you get up in the morning? 5?
No.
No.
I get up late and I work late, so normally maybe 7 o'clock I would wake.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So yeah, please.
Can they hear us at the moment?
I hear you very clear. Yeah.
What? Can the delegates hear us?
There are 4 delegates. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
But in total, more than 60, maybe 70 was registered already.
Yeah, it's very good.
Yeah. Now Chinky is there. I see Chinky.
Mm-hmm.
CT. What's wrong? So, how's Mr. Johnson? Is he still in the hospital?
He is still in the hospital. Yes.
Yeah.
We're told. Yeah, we're told he's now sitting up in bed.
Yeah.
But he's still in the intensive care unit.
Okay.
I suspect he won't be back and doing his job for maybe for 2 weeks. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to go straight back into work, is he? After being in an intensive care unit.
Yeah.
Bad timing.
Bad time. Yes.
And your lockdown is it now official?
Yeah, official, but it is not real lockdown. It's very loose, so we can still go out. No policeman is controlling. No army is there. So that's crazy. Now we are seriously discussing whether the barber shop should be open or be closed.
Well, I'll let you into a secret. All the barber shops here are closed, and this weekend my daughter will cut my hair.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
At the back, it's a bit long.
Okay. You can save some money.
I hope so. Yeah. I hope she won't charge.
Good. So I think, Chinky.
We have.
Come on, please.
I was just going to say we've got time. It's still 10 minutes.
Another 12 minutes to go.
This is good. So I can drink my coffee and
Sure, please.
make another.
I'm also drinking some tea. Yes.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Good.
Good. Are you going to video record today?
Yes. Yeah. Actually, that I linked. I'm now broadcasting through YouTube. So
I saw.
yeah, YouTube is already recording this session.
Great.
So after this session, that I will open the link to everybody. But I have to still edit because this part is already included in broadcasting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
So we are drinking, eating. That is also recorded.
Yeah. Okay.
So I see Chinky on the participant list, delegates list. But hey, Chinky, you can join as a panelist, or should I?
She should have the link. I told her that.
Okay, I can manage. I upgraded her to the panelist. Now she can join. That's funny.
Right, let me speak to her.
Yeah, now she's there.
Is she?
I see the screen. No face, but it is Chinky Tiagi.
Hello. She's not. Has she figured it?
I see the name of Chinky there. Yeah.
I have been there for last 5 minutes.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Is it a real background or a virtual background, Chinky?
It's a virtual background.
Virtual background. Okay. Okay. Good. Yeah. Good. So what time is it now in Delhi, India?
It's 11:20.
11:20. Okay. 3.5 hour difference
3.5
between Japan and India.
yeah.
Okay. So Chinky, you see the screen agenda schedule.
Yes,
okay.
I do.
Very good.
Okay.
Yeah. How is the lockdown situation in Delhi or India?
We had a 3 weeks lockdown, which is there until 14th of April. But yesterday, they have identified 15 towns and cities where they've identified, and within those, they've identified spots where there are more than 6 cases. So since midnight today, it's a complete lockdown, like one. Nobody can enter that area or exit. All the deliveries will be made by government. And you can't even step out of your house, and wearing a mask has been made compulsory.
Oh, you can't step out even from the house?
Yes.
So police or army or soldier, are they controlling?
Police, I mean, where I live, we get police van coming twice or thrice a day, making the announcement that don't step out of the house and stuff.
Okay.
They are on the main roads and everywhere. If we as of now, we are allowed to go and get our groceries and stuff once a day. But they'll still check and take note of the vehicle number, how many times you've left your building to make sure you're just doing it once and stuff.
Okay. Yeah, actually, early this week, so Japan has also, Prime Minister announced a kind of some measure declaration of emergency situation. But it is never ever the lockdown in other countries like India or UK or some other US. So it's very loose. Still, many people is commuting. Many people are commuting morning and evening.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. We are seriously discussing whether the barber shop should open or they should close.
Okay.
Yeah,
I mean, that's been closed here for 3 weeks now.
of course, of course. Yeah. But bad news is a small bar or izakaya in Japanese, which run by papa, mama, or old people.
Yeah.
They are not strong enough to survive this situation.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's a pity. That's a pity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, situation's getting bad everywhere. Like Ode's brother, like my husband's brother-in-law, he is a doctor in the US in Cleveland. And now, I mean, he's a radiologist, he's a neuroradiologist, but now he's been asked to come on the front line because they have shortage of staff and everything.
Yeah.
And my sister-in-law, like she works in clinical trials in the communications department, but she has to do all the admin work going from next week onwards for all the patients that'll be coming to Cleveland.
So is favorite bar of Mark, is it still open? Bar or pub?
No, they've been closed for nearly 3 weeks.
Nearly 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Are they
So as you
surviving?
could, well, they've closed. So they're just they're waiting for the instruction to reopen. Probably another month before they will reopen.
Yeah.
But as you can imagine, in a country like England, a lot of the conversation is around when the pubs will reopen. This is very important to everybody.
I
But
fun as well.
yeah. Okay, we have 4 minutes. I'm just going to make one more coffee.
Yes, please. Yeah. Yes, please. So, じゃあちょっと失礼して、wash your hand. Wash my hand.
Sure.
Yes,
Sure.
just come back soon.
Yeah.
Ah, you have a jacket. Ha ha. Very full. Oh. Wow. I'm too relaxed.
Not at all.
Yeah.
I think you still have the best bookshelf.
But after this, This is waiting for me. Oh.
I can't, what is it? Oh, okay, yeah, of course.
Yeah, I think we've got like 37 attendees who've joined in.
Very good.
Yeah, actually, to be at home and this kind of telecommunication, people tend to drink at home more than normal working style, right?
Mark, you've got a message.
Yeah, how nice.
So another 1 minute to go.
Mm-hmm.
Now 40 participants. Yeah, 40
Very
visitors.
good.
Yeah, it's there. Mm-hmm. Watching. Mm-hmm. Yeah, next time I will wear a jacket and tie.
You still look very smart, Aki.
Thank you. Thank you for compliments. Okay, now it's 3 o'clock. First, I will introduce. this webinar in Japanese, and then starting with Mark. Okay, thank you. どうも皆さんこんにちは、大野です。本日はテストにご参加いただきまして大変ありがとうございます。ここにアジェンダが表示されていると思いますけども、最初ちょっとご案内を差し上げて、その後およそ30分マーク・ジャービスに、少し今の状況のアップデートと、それから事前に皆様からいただいております質問、これを一問一答か、あるいはまとめてか、ちょっと答えていただくという段取りでいきます。その後、インドからチンキ・ティアギが参加していますので、こちらの方から、5月5日スタートで、6月いっぱいオープンにしておりますけども、WTiN のINNOVATE、イノベーションですね、INNOVATEオンライン2020、これについてのご案内、ご説明を20分ほどやらせていただきます。その後、ちょっと全体のサマリーということで締めくくらせていただこうと思ってます。Okay, Mark, good morning.
Good morning, Aki.
Chinky, hello.
Hello, Aki.
Yeah,
hello,
so
everyone.
thank you. Yeah, thank you for joining today.
Pleasure.
Pleasure.
I would like to introduce everybody that who Mark Jarvis is and who Chinky Tiagi is. So Mark Jarvis is the managing director of WTiN, World Textile Information Network, and it's an excellent information provider of what is happening in textile industry, in particular nowadays digital textile and also textile 4.0. That's a lot of information, and he's organizing and sharing with the people involved in this industry. So yeah, Chinky is now, she has a remote office in India, Delhi, where she came from, and she's a business development manager and organizing many events and making a big success nowadays. So Mark, yeah, start with you. So your brief introduction yourself again. And I would ask you to talk about the Corona situation. What is the impact to the textile industry? And also, what is the opportunity you see for the people who is involved in digital textile business or technology? And then, and then we will ask you some questions, right? Thank you.
I hope so. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Aki, and good afternoon, everybody. It's a real pleasure. This is the first time I've spoken to you from the UK. I hope it's not the last. I'm sure we'll find other opportunities, probably in the very near future as a result of the Covid-19 situation that we're all facing. So Aki has asked me to just talk a little to start with regarding the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on the textile industry. And I was thinking about this a little earlier. And For me, I felt the impact first in early February. I was visiting the United States. I was on the East Coast, and I had a number of meetings scheduled with some of the sportswear brands who are located in Boston, in Massachusetts. And the week of the meetings, I received messages to say that their offices had closed their doors to visitors, and that we wouldn't be able to meet. And I was left in the slightly unusual situation where I was having conference calls with our customers, even though I was only in a hotel 1 mile down the road from their office. So this was for me, quite, looking back on it now, quite an interesting thing, in that corporate America reacted very early to this situation. Beginning of February, this is 2 months ago. Particularly if you look at how late the federal government has been to reacting to the crisis. However, I came away from the US. Indeed, I came away and I had a week's holiday in Europe skiing. And a couple of weeks after that, at the end of February, the final week in February, I visited Japan.
Yes.
And some of the people I saw who were on the this webinar this morning, I met you during that week. But you will remember that week, not for meeting me, but for the Monday when the stock markets crashed. So eventually, after corporate America was waking up to these problems at the beginning of February, the markets woke up at the end of February. And what we then started to see were a number of the leading exhibitions be cancelled because of the travel restrictions that were going to be put in place. So, for example, in March, we had the cancellation of FESPA in Madrid. We had the even bigger news that Drupa would be postponed for 12 months. And indeed, on a lot smaller scale than Drupa, WTiN had to make the decision to cancel its own conference that was scheduled to take place in Singapore in May. So these were some of the early, supposedly leading indicators that we were seeing, that looking back on it now, were certainly very indicative of the crisis that was looming, not just the medical crisis, the economic crisis. But what we then started to recognize, I think, was that the disruption would take two forms. So the first wave of disruption that we saw as a result of the Covid-19 pandemic, economic disruption, particular to the textile industry, but to other industries as well, was the impact on the supply chain. And I read somewhere that about 94% of Fortune 1000 companies have reported significant disruptions to their supply chains. So we can read into that everyone is operating a supply chain that has failed them in this particular black swan event. I was also talking to a gentleman who certainly knows a lot more about supply chains than I do, a guy called Jim Rice. He's the deputy director at the Center for Transportation and Logistics at MIT. And I'd read an article he'd written in Harvard Business Review, and I was speaking to him, and he was saying to me, and this was a conversation that took place towards the end of March, he felt that we'd actually passed the peak impact on the global supply chains at that point, and things would improve. Which I thought was quite a big call. but this is what Jim studies, and I thought that was quite interesting. And at the same time, I was getting anecdotal evidence that China was moving back into production towards the end of March, mid to late March. They were back up to about 60% production.
Yeah.
But, you know, just an aside to that, yesterday I was talking to a representative of the Chinese government.
Oh, okay.
And he was telling me that a lot of fabric manufacturers in China have closed their factories again because they haven't got any orders.
Okay.
So whilst the impact of the medical crisis was dissipating in China, and we've seen it probably in our news programs that they're starting to return to some sort of normal life again. They were then being impacted by the demand from their customers in primarily in the developed economies. And actually, you know, if I just comment on China a little for a moment, you know, this really matters. When we had the last pandemic, the SARS pandemic, nearly 20 years ago.
Yeah, roughly 20.
I think it was 2003, Aki, something like that.
Yes, right.
You know, at the time, China accounted for less than 4% of global GDP.
Okay. Yeah.
That's now 16 or 17%. They're 4 times as big.
Yeah.
So China catching a cold, so to speak, economically impacts the whole world.
Yeah.
So what we're seeing now in China is really important. I think for the impact still on the supply chain, of course, the other big thing with China is that it manufactures the vast majority of polyester. So supplies to the Southeast Asian countries, for example, of polyester typically is coming from China.
Yeah.
I think the figure is about 80%.
80%.
80%. It's significant.
Okay.
And of course, polyester itself is significant in the raw materials for fabrics. Something like 75% of apparel is made from polyester. So we saw an impact there where, again, China, unable to supply the raw material, was causing manufacturers in countries like Vietnam to halt. So this, for me, was the first wave of the economic crisis in our industry. The second is still emerging, but it's emerging very strongly now.
Okay.
And that wave is one of consumer demand. Maybe it's more than a second wave. Maybe this is what you might call a retail tsunami that's going to impact the industry hugely. And again, yesterday, it was a busy day yesterday. There were 2 reports published yesterday, 2 separate reports that identified, I think, 2 really interesting statistics around the, let's call it this retail tsunami. Now, the first one was published by McKinsey and the business of fashion.
Right.
And the headline in their report was that retail sales, online sales of apparel, fashion apparel, this year will be down by 30%.
30%
globally.
Oh yeah.
30%. 30.
Okay.
A little later, a second report was published by the International Textile Manufacturers Federation.
Yeah. So I have read the first report. Yes.
And they had researched their members, so that the fabric manufacturers who supply the apparel, and they're reporting that their orders this year will be down by 30%.
Again, 30%.
Again, 30%. 2 completely separate pieces of research.
Okay.
Identifying a similar quantum around the decline in retail sales or orders from those same companies.
Okay.
So this is even bigger, I think, than the supply chain problems.
Right.
In that, when instinctively in a time of crisis, and then the instinct of individuals is to protect themselves, to protect their money, and in other words, to literally to close down, to close in. And so, and if you're not allowed out to visit the retail stores as well, to touch and feel the garments, then this is going to have a huge impact. And just to sort of sign off on this whole discussion on the impact, the disruption to the industry, the McKinsey report also suggested that 80% of listed fashion brands will be in financial distress in the next 6 months.
Okay.
And some of those those businesses will fail. Now, we've already started to see, for example, here in the UK, one or two of our fashion retailers have problems. And
Laura Ashley is they stopped the business, right? Laura Ashley was the first. Laura Ashley is a brand that has struggled for a number of years, and if you were forecasting a company likely to be one of the first to fail, then you probably would have picked Laura Ashley. Okay.
But we're also looking at retail department stores like Debenhams, who are also struggling. So there's a long list of stores here who have struggled along for a few years, who will possibly fail due to this current crisis. So in summary, I think that we've had two waves of disruption: the supply chain disruption, which continues. But I think this disruption due to consumer demand is much more hugely significant. And we're already seeing, as through the example that I gave, that even though the manufacturers in China are coming back on stream from about mid-March, they've had to close again because the orders aren't there.
No order. Okay.
No.
Good. That's a situation now that you have summarized. Okay. Thank you. So one question at this moment. So 30% of the demand or order is now decreased or being decreasing. So that is the item which is mass produced in the past. It's an item for mass production. So individual customized, digitally printed, or some very, very personalized demand that may still there, or had more chance, maybe better chance to survive. So mass-produced item for the mass delivery to the world could have a very big impact, like 30% or even more. Is my understanding right?
Yeah, I think you've read that very well, Aki. Ultimately, for the figures that I'm talking about are around the commodity type products.
Okay.
That's where the volume play is in the market.
Okay.
But you also I think what you also mentioned there, which is worth sort of talking about in the context of opportunities for digital in the future, is the mass personalization of product. This is a trend that's been ongoing now for a few years. Where, for those who are not familiar with it, a simple definition is that the product that you're purchasing is personalized for you, but the company that's personalizing it is able to do this on a scale. So I can go and visit a tailor in London, in Savile Row, and have a personalized suit made for me if I had the money to do that. But that's not mass. That's a personalized product. What we're talking about is product that can be mass personalized. And this is something that digital technologies are able to facilitate. And I think this is one of the emerging, will be one of the key emerging trends as we come out of this crisis, is that maybe it'll act as a catalyst for some greater innovation around more personalized product.
Thank you, Mark. So now I'd like to show, change the screen, maybe 5-6 questions, which was raised before this meeting. So let's share the screen here. Just a moment. Yeah. So I don't know how it is. So the first question I picked up is, you mentioned your separate articles that blockchain technology, which would provide the transparency and the traceability of supply chain management. Could you explain a little bit more about concretely what it means or what kind of impact for the people involved in digital textile? Is there any idea?
Well, I can, yes. I'm not an expert, a technical expert, but I can give you a basic, my basic understanding of blockchain.
Okay.
So it is, blockchain is actually the technology that sits behind Bitcoin, which I think is something that people are familiar with as a digital currency. So blockchain is, it's first of all, it's distributed. It exists across multiple computers, and it's a ledger of transactions for people with an accounting background. And those transactions can be used for exchanging items or contracts or tracking or indeed for payment. Every transaction that takes place is recorded on a block, hence the blockchain. And multiple copies then are shared across these distributed computers, so that there's only one truth, because you can't, when it's shared in that fashion, do anything to change the reality of what it's about. It's described as providing a consensus. There's no dispute on the chain regarding transactions, because all the entities, all the people, or the computers on the chain have the same version of the ledger. So, if you think about this in the context of your supply chain, it can facilitate the tracking of a product in real time, from its inception as a raw material, through the various stages. And we can describe the supply chain very simply. Raw materials, processing the raw materials into a yarn, weaving it into a fabric, finishing it, printing on it, perhaps making it up into a garment. 6 or 7 very simple stages. But the reality is there are numerous stages in all of this, sometimes involving transportation and other complexities. So it really can help in streamlining supply chains. And in doing that as well, it can deliver benefits like reductions in inventory and costs. So one example I can give you that I was reading about was was created by Lenzing, the Austrian cellulosic fiber manufacturer. And they've actually introduced blockchain into their tensile fibers, their key product. And they call them tensile fiber coins. And what they are is, using blockchain technology, they issue these to their supply chain partners, and they relate directly to physical shipments. So what they do is they serve as an authentication mechanism. So when you receive the fiber, you can authenticate that it is really Lenzing tensile fibers, and it hasn't been in any way diluted, for example, with other fibers or whatever it might be. So it's difficult for someone like me who's not technical to explain the technical complexity behind this.
Okay.
But it is widely recognized now that this technology platform will be leveraged in the future to bring greater supply chain transparency and indeed traceability of product as well, both for the business customer and for the end consumer.
Okay, yeah, thank you. In this morning, actually, that I read some news. It's completely different sector. One is the transportation of home furniture. It's a famous shop like IKEA in Europe. It is called Nitori in Japan. So they introduced SCM with a blockchain system to track, to trace where it is actually there without paper handling, without no paper, no ledger, something, but everything is blockchain, and they can exactly check where it is, where their ordered item is located, blah, blah, blah. And another example is completely different. This is the record of education of the person. So that is also blockchain with the highest security. And if maybe somebody is looking for a certain person expert who has a track record of a job and educations, and it is already available there if people can share this kind of things in the blockchain world. So maybe that could be used for digital textile supply chain business. So I know where my shirts came from. It could be made in China or made in Thailand, but that is the final final place to make it as a clothes. But I don't know from where this fabric came from. I don't know where even this fibers came from. So if maybe something wrong happens, maybe the manufacturer can easily search where is the alternative, blah, 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 and to check the alternative very effectively, for example.
Yeah, it's a good example.
Okay, good. So next question. In the same article that you mentioned, reshoring. And if I translated the reshore in Japanese, English, Japanese dictionary, it is some offshore is maybe do something or manufacture something not in the country, but to use outside resource to make it. Reshoring is maybe returning manufacturing process to the home country. So I think this could be a good idea. For example, today, every country is now closing its border to outside. So to share the risk or dilute the risk, that could be one idea. But more realistically, so multi-sourcing or, sorry, this question is the next one, sorry. Decentralize, not all the risk, all the items into one basket, in Chinese basket, but to source from China, source from Thailand, source from India, whatever. And I think that could be more realistic idea. This is what I think, or this person thinks. What do you think about this?
Okay, so two questions there. Let's just talk first about the idea of reshoring. Perhaps I should have been a little clearer in my article when I refer to reshoring. I also am considering nearshoring as well.
Okay.
Nearshoring. Sorry, I'm introducing another. But the idea being simply that rather than outsourcing, offshoring to a country the other side of the world, you may be offshore to somewhere a little bit nearer to you geographically. And what the question was, could you predict the percentage? Well, actually, McKinsey have actually predicted that by 2025, 63% of fabric production will move towards near shore.
Okay.
Now, I have to say, McKinsey certainly will know a lot more about this than I do. But that seems a very bold claim to me, a very bold claim.
Okay.
But even if we go some way towards that, that's quite a move, isn't it? So, but there are some, the barriers are clear. There is production is already large in capacity in Asia. The partnerships that already exist between the brands and the manufacturers are long and loyal. And it's those things take time to change. And also, if we look at the major developed economies, Japan, Western Europe, United States, there's limited capacity in those countries at the moment, particularly around local fiber supply.
That's true.
So what I would say is this: when it comes to reshoring, when it comes to nearshoring, it will be hugely different from country to country, dependent upon the infrastructures and the availability of capacity in each country.
Okay.
And I acknowledge that reshoring will be smaller than nearshoring. I think nearshoring is probably a better term to recognize in the short term. So, for example, for the US, we'll see more manufacturing moving to places like Mexico. For Western Europe, we're already seeing manufacturing moving to countries like Poland. These markets are, I think, are key to delivering on this trend. They're able to turn around product quickly. Obviously, geographically deliver it a lot quicker. The labor in those countries is cheaper than the nearby countries. And of course, with them being nearer, the logistics and the shipping costs are, of course, less as well. In terms of where we will see this happen first, in terms of the reshoring, or what parts of the supply chain we will see reshored first, I think it'll focus on the processes that are further down the supply chain. So like garment decoration, printing, digital printing, customization of product. I think these are the sort of things towards the end of the manufacturing process that we'll see reshored or nearshored first of all. The second part of your question was about the decentralizing of sourcing from a single country like China. Completely agree. Absolutely. The term I use for that is distributed manufacturing. And it's got a huge number of advantages, and it's already been recognized, Aki, by brands like the sportswear brand New Balance. And they have recently announced that its manufacturing goals are moving towards a more distributed manufacturing, closer to the consumer geographically. So, look at where then the main consumption geographies are for their product. Europe, Asia, North America. So what they're describing is a manufacturing base that delivers into each of those geographies. So it delivers the benefits of, if you like, nearshoring that I was describing, but on a global distributed manufacturing base. And this will be facilitated by these emerging technologies. As I think I've said many times that inkjet printing has been at the very front of the revolution in the digitalization of the manufacturing in textiles.
Yeah.
But we're now starting to see other areas emerge: automation, robotics, data analytics, additive manufacturing, all using cloud computing, etc. You know, these will support that transition to a more connected but a more distributed and decentralized manufacturing system. So I think that yes, I absolutely agree that you know, the old if you like, business rule of not having all your eggs in one basket is absolutely correct.
Mm-hmm.
And for that, combined with the lack of supply chain transparency, has been at the, I think, has been at the very heart of the current problems around supply chain as a result of COVID-19.
Very good. Okay. One small further question is garmenting or printing could be near shored or reshored anyway. But in the beginning of this session, you mentioned that 80% of polyester in Asia is now produced in China. So if there is no raw material, so nothing happens later.
Correct. Yeah.
So what do you think at that point?
Well, someone needs to invest in the manufacturing of that basic textile commodity of polyester.
Okay.
And whether that's from private funding, private equity funding, or whether that's government funding or a combination of the two, that investment needs to take place at least in key regions, and possibly in key countries.
Okay.
And sorry, please.
No. Okay. Yeah. I do agree. So I think whether or not the later stage of supply chain is decentralized or offshore, nearshore or whatever. But if the raw material doesn't come, so it's a big problem anyway. So, Mr.
And we've seen that happen. We've seen that happen in the last month, where fabric manufacturers in Southeast Asia have run out of polyester fiber or polyester yarn, and have had to slow down or close their factories.
Yeah, exactly. And even before that, some dye stuff was in a shortage. It happened in China due to certain reason, explosion of the factory or some environmental issues, and the 4 major factory was shut down. So people could not get the enough dye stuff for the polyester or whatever. Okay, good. Thank you. So due to the time management, I want to change the next questions. Okay, this is more or less covered. So if we push or we promote this, what kind of technology or standard, or is there any requirement which we should think about?
Well, the simple answer is yes. But in my experience with these significant innovations, the standardization of things is always, it always seems to come late to that change. It always seems to be an afterthought, after the fact. And I think that digital data standards for textile and apparel manufacturing, they're no different to what's gone before. They will emerge, but they're certainly not there at the moment. There are technologies that can integrate and talk to each other across facilities, but at the moment, there isn't a formally recognized standardization movement that I'm aware of. And besides this, mindset is a huge issue, and companies must be ready and be flexible to adopt these new standards. And sometimes, particularly probably at the moment, that mindset probably isn't there. So yeah, it'll happen. It will happen, but it's nothing that I'm particularly aware of at the moment.
Good. For safety issue, there are some movement. So raw material safety, or maybe colorant must be safe, blah, blah, blah. And there are certain standard or a certain organization is taking leadership, is there any some signs that this kind of data management or supply chain management, is there some organization is now taking a leadership to set up certain standard, or not yet?
Not yet, as far as I'm aware.
Okay, thank you. Good. So, yeah, question number 5 and question number 6 looks similar. So you can cover in one answer. One is, what is the bottleneck today if you if we talk about the promoting digital transformation? So biggest bottleneck, or last question is quite similar.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah. Okay. So I think I'll address this by talking about 3 bottlenecks.
Okay.
You know, it's sometimes when you're looking at something like a transformation, any transformation, you can it's very easy to get into the detail of the things that need to happen, and there are lots of them. So we could get into the detail now of talking about, well, what we need for a digital transformation is automation. We need more predictive maintenance, efficiency optimization, yeah, we need all of those things. And those things can happen and follow very naturally. But I think there are, for textile and apparel manufacturing, and therefore for retail, whether that's retail through bricks and mortar stores or through online e-commerce, I think there are 3 big bottlenecks. Okay. So 1, we've just been talking about it, China. China and the fact that it manufactures 80% of the world's supply of polyester. If you're reliant upon, one source, one bottleneck, if you like, for making this change. And then you need to think about, as we were just discussing, ways of resolving that, and one suggestion that, pre-COVID probably would have been ignored by a lot of governments, but maybe post-COVID might be something that governments start to listen to, and that is to organize state-run polyester fiber manufacturing plants to provide the raw materials that will seed the growth of the industry. Secondly,
number 2,
I think shareholders are a bottleneck. Shareholders, probably all of us on this call are shareholders to some degree, and instinctively perhaps we're all concerned with cutting costs or increasing our margins, adding value to the business, and not perhaps investing. But this sort of change that we're talking about is about investment. So, getting shareholders to understand the benefits of a more longer term view. Difficult, very difficult. So once again, governments could perhaps play a role here in helping manufacturers to digitize. So they could provide financial support, for example. They could. I'm describing a lot of government intervention here, but I'm just trying to think of the big things that need to happen, and there may be other solutions than governments. But I think the third bottleneck, to this change is the simple fact that manufacturers have purchased what is now old, what is analog, if you like, capital equipment for manufacturing that still sits on their balance sheet. And hasn't been fully depreciated. So let's working assumption, 20 years to depreciate a big weaving machine, something like that. If you bought it 5 years ago, 10 years ago, you're not going to suddenly rip that out of your factory and sell it on the cheap to another country or throw it in the bin to replace it with a much more finely tuned, digitized manufacturing machine. You're just not going to do that. So looking to make such a big change, you do need to consider the fact that these companies have got these assets sat on their balance sheet. And once again, maybe there's some sort of way of legislating for being able to depreciate those a lot quicker and allowing those companies to invest in new digital equipment. Good. But I think these are the big issues, the big bottlenecks, if you like, that stand in the way of this revolution.
Yeah, number one is the supply chain or the raw materials now dominated by China, polyester 80%. Number two is the mindset of the shareholders. They are a little bit short-sighted. So if we want to expect some big things to happen, we should push also the government. And third thing is still old legacy analog manufacturing machine is existing in their book or in the factory. So I think they have to still use it. So if maybe something we really want to have do it, that kind of legacy machine or system should be booked off, written off by certain means, right? Yes. Good. So I think maybe you can agree in the last question, as you may know, one of the issues in Japanese market in particular, maybe not only Japanese market, all over the world, are more or less similar, might to be stubborn apparel player, not willing to change their value chain. And I think this kind of old way of thinking could be washed away by corona tsunami, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the corona crisis could be the catalyst for a lot of change in the textile industry.
Yeah.
Of course, we could all just return to what we were doing before. That's happened in the past, but it could be the change.
Okay.
And I think this time, with the impact on consumers who are being asked to stay at home for weeks on end, and who need, shall we say, to feed their shopping habit, then they start to look for other ways of doing that because all the stores are closed. And e-commerce is clearly the way that a lot of people are shopping at this moment. And so the experience of both the consumer and those retailers who do have an online offering, albeit perhaps quite small, in the Japanese market, could that experience could be the catalyst for change in the future.
I think it is not easy, and it is very painful change, but I think we more or less involved in this digital technology could have a chance to make the world better, right?
I believe it. I believe it is a chance. It's an opportunity, definitely.
Okay, thank you very much, Mark.
Thank you, Aki.
Very interesting discussion. Thank you once again.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So now I want to switch over to Chinky Tyagi to explain INNOVATE, which was originally, as Mark said before, was planned to have a real conference at Singapore, or even before Mark has started thinking to have it in Hong Kong. But due to the situation in Hong Kong, he switched to Singapore. But now, Corona issue does not allow to keep it in the same format there. So I still remember that when you are staying in Japan and with me to visit several countries, so we sit together and they have a very quick decision. Okay, let's do it online. So now I would like to ask Chinky to talk about that event. Please, Chinky.
Thank you. I'll just share my screen so I can show everyone what we are planning to do and how the event would work.
Yeah.
I hope you can all see my screen.
Start sharing. Okay. Yeah, I see.
You can see it. Perfect.
Yeah.
As Aki and Mark have already said, our initial plans were to launch the event in Hong Kong to start with, Then we moved it to Singapore, but looking at the current situation and how the global scenario is right now, we don't see that in near future we might be able to host an in-person conference. So I think the way forward for WTiN to continue sharing information and keeping our textile and apparel community updated with latest innovation is that we launched our INNOVATE Textile and Apparel online event. So, I mean, I'll just show you the process, how you can reach the event website through our website. So if you log on to WTiN.com, and if you look at our events tab, the first event that you would notice is the INNOVATE Textile and Apparel Online 2020. And the event follows the similar pattern as we do with our in-person live events. The event is focused on 3 themes. The first one being the Industry 4.0 and the digitalization aspect of advanced manufacturing. And then the other element is the rethink materials, where we talk about innovative materials that can be at the level of e-textiles. We could talk about graphene, which is a new emerging material for the industry. Then we talk about performance enhancing textiles. So all that is covered within the rethink materials stream. And then we do touch upon new aspects of business models. So, I mean, for example, in the current scenario, as you rightly asked, Mark, in your previous question, the e-commerce model, would manufacturers start using the e-commerce model themselves and become not just B2B suppliers, but also B2C suppliers to consumers? So that's a new emerging business model. And within our conference, we touch upon that aspect as well. So just to show what we are currently covering is we've got speakers from different industries, as I said earlier. And we'll be talking about, our keynote session would talk about the current landscape of how digitalization and new materials are actually impacting the innovation growth, how old businesses are adapting these new technologies or adapting new materials and creating something new. So we look at the drivers of these innovation. Within the Textile 4.0 stream, which is all focused on digitalization, we would talk about skill evaluation, because if you, I mean, what Mark mentioned, and we were talking about reshoring and nearshoring, there's a massive gap. If America wants to bring manufacturing back to America, there's a massive skill gap in the industry. They don't have anyone who understands garmenting, because that's already been outsourced to China 20 years ago. So how to evaluate the skill gap in the industry, would look at new technologies like 3D structuring, how virtual prototyping can help in businesses. Looking at the current scenario, it's quite possible that 6 months down the line, we would not be able to create samples and send it across the world. Then what do you do? There are new technologies out there that can help you do virtual prototyping. And you could see the look and feel of the fabric, how it would, the eventual end product would look like. And then you can directly place orders rather than creating samples and multiple iteration of samples. So that could be a possible new technology. And it's possible that a completely new virtual fashion business house might come up. We are seeing something of this sort happening already in Hong Kong. There is an example of a very popular brand in Amsterdam where they're actually working with Mercedes-Benz Fashion Week, where designers are not going to create any garment. Models would be virtual, the garment would be virtual, and they've actually sold a virtual garment for around like 6,000 euros or something. So a new business model can evolve from this. As previously said and discussed in the previous section by Mark, there's a massive impact on the supply chain. So what data points manufacturers need to capture, what data points machinery producers need to capture in order to ensure, if you're supplying a machinery to someone, what data you need to capture in order to do predictive maintenance for the client, in order to let them know whether they're operating their machinery at the right level or not. and help them with balancing the production lines. So that's the kind of thing we could see from the data point of view. And blockchain is one of the key technologies which Mark mentioned. We also have an existing technology which has been there for a while, the RFID technology. Now there's a new research that has come up where RFID threads are being incorporated within the fabric.
Okay.
And instead of just the blockchain ledger or something, you could track that RFID thread, and that can give you the whole history of where the fabric was produced, who the garmenter was, in which factory it was produced, then who distributed it, which warehouse was used, and you can see the full history of it.
Is it something to do with smart textile, or that is a different?
Yes, it is something to do with smart textiles. That's correct.
Okay.
And that's where the crossover comes in, that you use a material, but you're using a new technology to enhance the properties of a material. We've also seen with RFID, there has been some research, latest work that's been done on the Nile cotton, the Egyptian cotton that we say, that the first harvest of the Nile cotton has been 100% fully traced using blockchain technology. So all the, especially brands like Walmart and Target who are buying Egyptian cotton bed sheets now actually know in which farm that cotton was produced, how it was, like who was the ginner, where did it go for spinning, who produced the fabric, so they can see the full value chain and understand that the product is authentic and there has not been any mismanagement of the raw material at the producer's end.
Okay.
Then on the material side, we've got some very interesting presentations around, as you said, smart textiles. So what are the predictions? Where do we see smart textiles being used in next 5 years, maybe? We could see them, like we currently know we can use it in our sports garment. It's being used for medical purposes, but it's some of the event organizers are actually incorporating smart textiles fabric on the seats. So when a visitor, within which presentation did the visitor got disinterested and left the meeting room, you can capture that information from the seat you're sitting on. So there'll be a lot of new applications of this technology, and we would discuss those predictions and applications in this presentation.
Okay, all right.
Then, as I mentioned about graphene, which is a new wonder material, as we are saying, it's got a lot of properties. It can be, it adds more conductive nature. It's more conductive compared to other materials that we have. And a lot of sports brands are using it because they see it being more diverse than the existing material that is available. So there's a lot of testing being done on this product. So we'll talk about that new biographene infused textiles. We'll talk about sports grade e-garments, what properties need to be there, what kind of sensors can be incorporated in your garments, what data can a fabric capture. So if I'm wearing this jacket and if it's a smart jacket, it can tell my body temperature, it can measure my heartbeat, it can measure the sweat, and from sweat, they can analyze the data and say whether my health is good or not.
Wow.
It can be used for tracking in healthcare, especially with diabetic patients or adults incontinence. So these are the applications that can be used using an e-garment. So we'll talk what sensors can be used in these kind of products. Now, we also know there's a lot of talk in the industry around sustainability, because that's a big topic, but we do see that there's a bit of greenwashing with the term, like not all companies are sustainable, not all materials are sustainable. So what are the standards? On what parameters should these be measured? We'll talk about that in one of our presentations around is it just marketing that we're using, or actually the material is sustainable? How you can identify that?
Okay.
Then on the basis of, we say there are two, to be honest, there are 3 kinds of materials. There is, like we say, e-textiles, then there are also intelligent textiles. Intelligent textile is something that can change its property based on the data that's been fed to it. So for example, if my jacket, if I'm very hot and my jacket realizes I'm feeling hot, it becomes cool. It becomes an intelligent textile, that it's taken an action based on the user's requirement. So we'll talk about these kind of textiles and how extra intelligent, what functionality can be there, what is currently available in the market, and what new research is being done in this industry. We'll talk about smart clothing and wireless technology, where how you could connect your garments to Bluetooth and transmit data, and then how you could capture that information and transmit it back to maybe producers or consumers to tell them their usage patterns. And then our own analyst would give us a complete picture of the future of smart textiles in terms of where we are seeing the industry as of today and where we think the industry within smart textiles will be progressing in 5 years. So our analyst would talk.
Tinky, just a moment. Would you scroll down to the sponsors corner?
Yes, I'll talk about that definitely.
Yeah. Okay. It's a Konit Digital, of course. They are very active. And Printlight is Chinese.
It's a Chinese company. That's correct. Yes.
And AVA is a textile CAD or
yes, the software
company.
Producers. That's right.
Okay. And then.
And we do have other partners, like yesterday Mark said he had a
Chinese Textile Information Center.
Yes, they are supporting us. We've got support from the Textile and Fashion Federation of Singapore. We've got support from the Textile Institute in the UK. And then AE Textile Communications from the US.
We just scroll up again to the Konit Digital. Because all the information here is the audience today. They are involved more or less in digital textile printing. So, and the story you have talked, that the topic you have mentioned is a little bit away from the printing technology, but
I would say yes, it is away.
Company and
yes, I'll tell you the reason why they're sponsoring. I think it is slightly away from the topic, from the technology of digital printing, but it's not away from their consumers, or it's not aware how the industry would change and create new business models.
That is a point, yes.
So that is why Konit is supporting it, and similarly Printlight, because they see digitalization is going to impact their technology buyers, which are producers. And then producers need to know about these new digitalization techniques in order to remain relevant in the current scenario. So it's important for all the technology providers to actually come forward and support these kind of events in order to make sure that the producer knows that they are connected with the industry and not working in isolation, because digitalization is going to impact everyone. And each part of the value chain needs to be connected and being speaking to each other in order to understand the customer first approach, that what their customer is thinking, they need to deliver that.
Thank you. Okay, Chinky. Would you then explain how to register, and also the most important things for the people who want to attend is the pricing?
Yeah, sure. So for those of you who want to register, there's this register button. We are offering the ticket at a very nominal price of $195 US.
Oh, okay.
And if you just click on this register button, you could see a pop-up coming up, and you'll have to fill in your personal information here. And following that, you can see you have to fill your first name, last name, email address, phone number.
Okay.
Yes. I've added Japanese yesterday in this, so it's easier. But my request would be, if you're filling this, if you can fill it in English, that would be useful, so I can understand who submitted it.
Sure. Okay.
But we've created this form, so it's easier for everyone to understand it in their own language. And when you fill in this information, you just need to agree that we can capture your data, and then this will go on to
your server.
I'll just show you how it would work. So we all understand how it's going to work.
That's good.
Okay. And And if you want to add anyone as a guest, you could just add there, and it will ask you to add more information there. But
Good.
in this case, I'll just leave it for now.
Yeah, Chinky. Yeah. Thank you. Due to the time management,
I'll just show the code that everyone needs to use, because we are working with Aki on this. So when you register, please use the ONO code that Aki would. So when you come to this, just use the
promotion code.
Apply that, and then please proceed with the payment options.
Okay.
So that's the registration bit, but how it would work, we are all the presentations would be available as pre-recorded and be available in English language, but we are adding subtitles. So just to give you an example, this is a copy of the presentation that we've done. We've added
the movie with Japanese subtitle.
With subtitles would be available.
That's good.
So it's easier because, I mean, we've got speakers from different backgrounds. So if it's not easy to understand what they're saying in English, if they have a heavy accent, at least you could read what they're saying, and that'll make it easier for the attendees as well.
Excellent. That's good.
The system would also allow you to ask questions to the speaker. So if you have a question, you could just type in your question. The speaker would get a copy of it, and they can log in back and respond to the attendee. So it's a two-way communication. Don't expect it to be just listening to a presentation. Feel free to ask questions, and we would make sure that the speakers respond to your queries.
Okay. Last confirmation which I want to make is that this will open starting from 5th of May, and you keep it until the end of June. So roughly 2 months, close to 2 months, everybody who registered can access.
Yes.
So if there are some unclear point, the people can listen again and again to digest.
Definitely. Yes,
that's good.
Correct.
That's good. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Chinky.
Thank you, Aki.
Yeah, introducing. Okay. So you can.
I'll stop sharing.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. How to indicate my face? I don't know what to do. すいません、1時間ちょっと長丁場、皆様お付き合いいただきまして大変ありがとうございました。今のあれですね、最初に質疑応答を含めたマークのセッションと、それから5月5日から6月いっぱい、今のイノベートオンライン2020というのが始まりますので、これ今も言いましたように、英語とかいろんな言語で皆さんがプレゼンしますが、日本語のサブタイトルがあります。それから2月5月いっぱい、6月いっぱいオープンにしてますので、何度でも聞けます。それで195ドルですけど、私のオーノって入れると、おそらく1割か2割か、ちょっと私も実はまだ承知してないんですが、ディスカウントがありますので、せっかく家にいるというのがきっとまだ5月や6月もフル出社にならないとは思うんですけども、せっかくだったらこの機会にですね、インクジェットのプリントだけじゃなくて、それを一部として組み込んでいるデジタルテキスタイルのこの流れっていうものの、全体像を一度ちょっと勉強してみるといい機会になるかなと思います。Okay, thank you, Mark. Thank you, Chinky. 皆様どうもありがとうございました。では、本日のウェビナーここで終了させていただきます。どうもありがとうございました。Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.